So I was watching a documentary last night on Helen Keller.
All right.
I'm just going to say it, not that impressive.
No? What, the documentary or Helen
Keller.
All right.
It's a big fucking deal. She could do everything. She couldn't see or hear. That's the big thing, right? She did all these things she couldn't see or hear. I can see and hear. More distractions.
Boy, that's kind of an interesting point.
I think I'm the Helen Keller of podcasting.
Oh, really? Oh, that's bold. Do we need to like add that to what our tagline or?
I think
Underworld News tonight with the Helen Keller of podcasting.
I am the Helen Keller of podcasting, Andrew Michaels, on Underworld News tonight with my co-host, recently exonerated DB Cooper suspect Jason Strong.
Yep.
Jason,
yeah, they realized I wasn't named DB Cooper, and
that was the whole thing. I don't understand why it was so hard to catch him. He literally gave his name.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
I agree. Yeah. Deep state and all that, I guess.
Is it deep? That's the thing, right?
As opposed to what, the shallow state?
The shallow state, yeah. I think that maybe. I think maybe that's the actual thing, right? As we're all looking for the deep state, we're missing what's right in front of our very eyes.
Oh, right. Like it's the shallow state who wants you to think it's the deep state. But really they're pretty transparent.
You know what I think?
They're pretty, yeah.
You know what I think you got to look out for? Now, I think this is going to be foreign to you, and we will get to our actual show in a minute, by the way. We cover the weird, wacky, and wild news stories of the week. That's a good tagline. We should use that with the Helen Keller podcasting
with the Helen,
and DB Cooper. Right. What I will get to, though, is who you got to look out for, deep state, shallow state. I'm assuming they didn't have this in the 80s where you had a wristband system in the pool. I had this at my day camp where like you had, when you went to the day camp, because it was kids who were like as young as 5 and then as old as like 12 or 13. I left when I was 8 because, being a fat kid in a pool-based environment is not good. So you had a blue wristband.
Can confirm, actually, yeah.
Blue wristband meant you were good for the shallow water where you could stand. Basically, it was up to like 3 feet. Those little kids. They had to take a test to get the green wristband. It'll go a bit over your head, but I think it was up to like 5 feet or 4.5 feet, maybe. And then the red wristband was you could be in like 7 or 8 feet of water, I think, was like as deep as the pool.
Okay. Yeah. How deep did the pool go?
I think like 8 feet. I think it was like up to the red wristband. I got to red wristband, but I don't know how deep it actually went. I guess you got to worry about that green wristband state.
Right.
That's where I'm worried.
Uh-huh.
That joke is for our listeners who went to Meadowbrook Country Day Camp. Which maybe we have some because we have a lot of new listeners.
Right. All 4 of you, I guess.
Unless you fucking dunked me in the pool. Look at me now. I'm a podcaster.
Right. No, that's funny. The public pool I went to in the 80s had no such like distinctions in terms
it was just smoking and non-smoking, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it wasn't even non-smoking. Like you just smoked. People smoked everywhere. There was just like beer bottles and broken glass and hypodermic needles, and they didn't care as long as you had your like $3 to get in.
Yeah.
You could do, shallow end, deep end.
And can you imagine a fucking world where there is broken glass and used needles on the ground in Ohio? So glad we're past that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, we've really, made a lot of progress since 1985.
You know who else has made a lot of progress? And this is what they call a smooth transition in the broadcasting biz, let alone the podcasting biz.
Might this be a segue?
It is a segue, and we're about to fucking ride it. I think the CEO died from riding it off a cliff, so I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make light of that. R.I.P. Maybe I don't know anything about him. Maybe he deserved it. Maybe he didn't. But I think that the people who've made a lot of progress are the brave women who move on from a toxic relationship, who say, I am kicking that man to the curb. I was talking about the book Gone Girl with my wife. And I think what she did in that book, toxic monogamy culture to me. Don't frame him for murder. Say, honey, get out of here, pack your bags and go. I'm going to move on and be happy. This woman's name is Brocard. This is a story from the Daily Mirror. She divorced her ghost husband and is now becoming a nun.
Oh.
I guess it's a bittersweet story because it was a difficult divorce. So Brocard is a singer from Oxfordshire who first fell in love with Eduardo. Now that is Eduardo with a Wedwardo. And I'm going to fill you in on the story because I did a bit of a deep dive. This was covered by many, many of the brave and tireless journalists in the British tabloid press, who, when they're not hacking the phones of dead children or dissecting this case, and we love them for it. Yeah. Now, Eduardo is the ghost of a Victorian soldier. I don't know what he did. I'm pretty sure they did some pretty bad shit in the Victorian era, like globally. So I'm gonna say,
what's the date range?
That's the 19th century. That's Queen Victoria. That's
right. No, I'm
like
familiar
the late.
with
I think it's like the late 19th century. I think.
Yeah. No, it's more for the.
I wish I had a fucking thing in my pocket that could tell me, but I don't.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, just Victorian soldier. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they. Do you think they can? We don't need to get into it.
Probably like a weirdly colorful uniform, right?
I think it's probably very gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Victorian era was like very conservative. Like, I think it was probably very like gray. Like, I think he definitely had the big baggy pants, but I think that the military uniforms were probably pretty. I don't think this is as far. I don't think we're talking like the red coats.
Okay.
By the way, be on the fucking lookout for those bastards in your neighborhood. You never know.
Yeah, constantly. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just trying to picture this guy. So like, kind of a weird, maybe hat, helmet.
Well, I think he appeared in a doll. I'll need to confirm that, and I'm going to put pictures in the socials if he did. If I put nothing on the socials, then somebody should make fun of me on there for being wrong, because that's probably what happened. Now in 2021, Eduardo appeared in her home. They got married soon after that. It was a whirlwind romance, but things were not all that they were cracked up to be.
So he was deceased when they got married.
Yeah, he appeared in her home. By the way,
Spectre. Yeah.
Yeah. He showed up in the house. I mean, he was ghost. He was. I think that he was just. Here's what I think. I think that for a ghost, the difference between an impulsive lay and a marriage to a human who's going to die anyway.
Right.
It's not that much, because what? Like, she's going to be dead, and I mean, I hope Rocard lives forever. I think she's 4. I think I looked her up. I think she's 30. So I think she's going to be dead. Let's say 70 years. Let's say 120. May she be like Abraham.
Sure.
Still to Eduardo, who died, let's say 200 years ago or 150. I don't know, someone who's fucking. I don't trust people who are good at math. What are they doing with those numbers? Tell me in words. Right. But like, either way, to Eduardo, this is not a lot of time.
Right.
They soon get married, and things are not all they cracked up to be, because before that marriage even starts, he ghosts her for publicly disclosing the relationship. Now, she did win him back, but then in 2022, he ruined their honeymoon in Wales by drinking too much and making her pay for anything. Now, I am not... The drinking too much thing, I need to know if Eduardo had done that as a ghost before, because if I was... I didn't know ghosts could get drunk.
No. Yeah, this is news to me. Yeah.
Now, and making her pay for everything, I am going to give Eduardo the benefit of the doubt here, because he died so long. Like, think of the fucking inflation. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ATM card, a debit card.
Yeah, he doesn't have a. What's he gonna do? Fucking Venmo you?
Right.
I don't know what British Venmo is. Is he gonna swoondoggle you?
Yeah, he probably just has like weirdly large banknotes with maybe pictures of like royalty or beavers or some shit on them. Yeah,
They all have a seal.
Right. That it's probably not currently accepted currency, I guess is the point I'm driving at.
I would imagine, but actually, now that we say that, his money is probably worth more. So we should have sold his money for modern money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like a $1 bill from like 1700 is worth more than $1. I mean, I know there wasn't a $1 bill in 1700. A $1 bill from 1893 is worth more than $1.
Right. No,
so like
that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I take it back. Fuck you, Eduardo.
Yeah.
I'm glad you fucking got killed in. I don't know where. I don't know where they were. In India, I'm gonna say, because then you definitely deserved it.
Yeah. That seems about right, time-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, so he ruins the honeymoon in Wales. He's drinking too much. He's making her pay for anything. He gets increasingly aggressive, and he begins to just haunt her with the sounds of a screaming baby. Now, this... Okay. I hate to bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to speculate on Brocard.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, ignorance being no excuse, is it possible she married a baby and was trying to save, like a ghost baby, and was trying to save face a little here, legally and otherwise?
Oh. Well, that's a really interesting point. Like maybe she married, it was actually like 3 ghost children like sitting on each other's shoulders, and they have a trench coat.
And then it makes sense that you would put the baby on top, because that actually looks the most like a 38-year-old man.
Yes, yeah. Well, when you
UK.
cover it with whatever goofy military headdress.
Yeah, for sure.
They were using at the time.
The big fur hats.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? There's a video of this is not related. There's a video of a woman, of like an American tourist trying to like pose with them, and like she like touch it, she didn't, like, they obviously flip out. She did not expect it. It's very, she gets very scared, but it's also very funny because they do a little stomp, but it's very goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They stomp like a little dressage horse, and the woman gets very scared. I'm sure it's very scary if you're there, but on the video it's very funny.
I'd be scared, to be honest. If what are they, beef eaters? Is that what they call them, or is that a slur?
I think that if we ever reach the point that we were going to tour, there are several countries in which we could no longer do it.
Yeah.
But that's fine by me. Now, believe it or not, the problems didn't stop there. Brocard announces their divorce by this summer. Just a few months ago, she says that he's stalking her in bizarre disguises, including a fake mustache and a French accent when she's in Barcelona.
So this implies that there's like a ghost that just is a world traveler. This
is not a chained ghost. He can go wherever he wants. He went to the apartment. He's showing up in Barcelona.
Sure.
He's a traveling guy.
Sure.
And perhaps the last straw, though, came when Eduardo saw their wedding on, and I don't know if you've heard of this, Gogglebox.
No, but that certainly sounds like something that you could find in the UK.
Now, what Gogglebox is not the dyslexic-friendly porn site that I have pitched several times for the United States. What it is instead is a show that I guess is a reality show that I guess showcases the lives of everyday Britons. And I'm really glad that someone's shedding light on the ghost marriage thing there, because it is a big problem. But it comes on, they're watching the show, and Brocard says he throws a fit and blows up the TV. She says, I'm sorry, I got to do the British accent. I am at my wit's end. Eduardo blew up the TV when he saw our wedding on Gogglebox. He won't go anywhere near churches or priests, so I'm hoping he's scared of nuns also. He hated the thought of me dating real men, so perhaps he will be content and finally rest in peace if I turn to God and a life of abstinence. Now, Jason, you're a lapsed Catholic, right?
Yeah.
Aren't nuns married to
My
Jesus?
membership expired. Yeah.
Aren't nuns married to Jesus?
To my recollection, that is sort of how it's framed. Yeah.
So, how do you think, as a Catholic, I think that the big thing is he hates churches, so that'll probably keep him away. But if it doesn't,
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't want to. We've gotten a lot of new listeners, including people that we don't know personally. So I don't want to offend. We have listeners of various faiths. I don't want to offend our Catholic listeners, especially.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How do you think Eduardo is going to feel listening to her moan in ecstasy, getting that sweet, sweet crosswood and those chiseled abs and firm stigmata riddled hands every day and night?
I can't imagine he would be happy to hear that. But also, you've clearly put a lot of thought into this.
Sometimes,
I don't know how much. So, again, as a former Catholic, yes, nuns are kind of described as being married to Jesus. Although like priests and stuff aren't described the same way.
Well, they have. I think Jesus is a bit too old for them.
Yeah. But I don't not a lot of as I recall, my Catholic education, my Catholic upbringing, not a lot of talk about nuns consummating the marriage with Jesus. Like it seemed like sort of a more of a like companionship.
Wait, you think
sort of thing.
They're in like a loveless. So
they're
married to Jesus, but it is a loveless, sexless marriage.
Well, it's sexless. I don't loveless. I don't know. I mean, there's who am I to judge? But there's different like types of love. But yes, I think that a sentence I didn't wake up this morning planning to say. I think that a Catholic nun's marriage to Jesus, yes, is largely sexless.
You should wake up prepared to say every sentence. I wake up prepared. I don't know what I'm going to say. And you know what I did today? I took my Adderall at 3 p.m. By mistake. By mistake and then needing to catch up. So here we are. Now, Ricard did say she's worried because she says she doesn't know how she'll cope with no sex. Jason and I disagree on whether or not that's going to happen, but he is the expert. I'm a very passionate person. I'm not sure praying will be a suitable substitute. I'm also a bit concerned about being confined to one location, which I think nuns can leave. Like they're not like under lock and I've seen nuns at the grocery store.
Right.
Not where I live now, but like when I lived on the East Coast, I would see him like around.
Yeah.
If you go to New York, you see them roller skate a lot. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've having gone to Catholic school for 10 years of my life, I don't think I've seen a single nun roller skate.
Well, I don't think it's allowed in the Midwest. It's more of an East Coast liberal thing, I think.
Oh, no, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah.
I do think that, like, as far as, all right, I don't think that maybe I am the right person to say this, but being a nun maybe seems a little fun. Sometimes. The hat seems fun.
Huh?
You get to roller skate.
Sure.
What else they do?
I'm inclined to agree with you.
If they don't have to do, like, when you don't work at the Catholic school, that has to suck. So you have to hit kids with a ruler. I know that.
Right. Yeah.
And then what if they get hard? That's what I would worry about. You waken something.
Right. No, I think a lot of
I'll tell you, I might as well have been hit with a ruler by a nun.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of our like fiction does sort of portray nuns as like maybe maybe sort of fun loving in
Yeah,
like a
Sister
weird
Act.
way. What,
They're nuns
Sister
in
Act?
Sister
Yeah,
Act, right?
certainly. Sound of Music, right?
Isn't she I haven't actually. She's a Nazi.
No, she's a nun.
She's
Julie
a.
Andrews?
She's not a
Yeah,
Nazi nun.
no, none of them are Nazis. That's
Okay.
sort of the like thrust of the movie is they have to eventually escape Austria.
I feel so bad for the nuns. Oh no, the poor.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel bad for anybody who had to escape the horrors of the Third Reich. I never mind. I'm gonna edit. I'm gonna edit that out. I'm gonna edit that joke out. I feel, at the end of the day, being killed is being killed, and they took a courageous stand. I want to apologize to our Catholic listeners, and that joke about the sweet, sweet crosswood being thrust into Brocard. I apologize for that too. I don't need to be canceled by the Pope this early on in the show.
I feel like the current Pope is probably okay with that.
I would have voted for Kennedy 3 times if I could.
Instead of how many times did you vote for Kennedy? Zero.
He was like my policy has always been to just write in Perot.
No, that's I actually still do that to this day.
Yeah. Now
I'm pretty sure he's dead, right? Perot? Man, we're getting far afield. Anyway,
Perot died. Perot is dead. Yes, Perot is dead. Okay. There was kind of like a controversy when he died because people were like, is what Perot did a more polite version of Trumpism? This is not the podcast to dissect that.
No, not at all.
If you want to listen to fucking Vox 3 years ago, go for it. Now, last thing about Brocard.
Yeah, please.
She said she is a bit concerned about being confined to one location. We've established nuns can leave. I'm a bit of a free spirit. I'm not sure how nuns feel about foreign holidays or cocktails by the ocean. I think they're both fine. I guess I'll be the naughty nun who's sipping wine under the altar, which before a job interview, I wouldn't say in the press that I'm going to drink at work.
Right. Right. Yeah, you just sort of like quietly do it.
Yeah, I mean that's what that's what coffee mugs on the Zoom meeting are for.
Exactly. Exactly so. Yeah. No, I've definitely had meetings where I've drank coffee, and I'm using air quotes, that was a mug full of gin.
I feel so. I'm gonna give our listeners some Andrew and Jason lore, which is that we met working at a shitty call center job. I'm not gonna say it was for a nonprofit. I'm not gonna say which one because for a variety of reasons. But I don't think we matter enough for them to sue us. But nonetheless, it feeds my delusions of grandeur to say that's why, but this is not why. We met working at a call center. I feel bad for Jason because Jason left the call center job at the end of 2019, so he never worked remotely in the call center. I spent my last 2 weeks at that call center working from home. My camera broke, so I couldn't be on camera during the Zoom meetings anymore. And I would have people call in, and I'd be smoking joints. They'd be like, "I'm going to cancel my donation." I'd be like, "Yeah, do it, man." It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I did miss the work from home, but I also feel like I didn't really miss much.
Yeah. And if you're drinking, smoking weed at work, people are going to give you a hard time. But I say whatever you have to do to get through that day driving that ambulance.
No, absolutely. Yeah, flying flying a commercial airliner. How stressful can that be? Like,
I mean, for sure.
I couldn't do it unless I've had like 4 or 5 beers and a blunt.
All right. I don't know enough about being a pilot. If we have pilot listeners, they could let me know. And then we do need to actually stay on topic because I know a lot of our new.
We're.
But I have something to say about Sully that I've been meaning to get out. Which is that people say it was so bad if he allegedly was drinking during that flight or not, or doing pills or whatever. I don't know. I haven't seen the fucking movie. Most of a commercial flight though is them just like going straight and like staring at nothing, right?
I mean, I'm not a pilot, but to my knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, like 80% of the
plane kind of flies itself, right? Like it's computerized.
Yeah, I think takeoff and landing is what's hard.
Right.
I think that I think that look,
and of course the mid-flight barrel rolls.
Yeah, that's true.
Those you want a human at the
I think that I think that like the risk of a pilot drinking is not them like not being responsive. It's them getting fucking ideas. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. Right. This flight bound for Cleveland. Man, I don't know. I've had a couple of White Russians, and now I'm thinking I might want to go to Reno.
Yeah, you never. I do not trust. I nothing but love for our pilot listeners and our commercial airline listeners. I don't trust a pilot. I'm sorry. I trust them to land the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I do not trust a pilot in an interpersonal interaction.
I think that's fair. Actually, I do know a pilot, and that's absolutely how I feel. All right, so welcome to our beloved segment, Starstruck, where we talk about celebrities and the paranormal.
And all sorts of stuff. Maybe the paranormal, maybe in the future, one of them will take a shit on an airplane. That's always fun.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Somewhere where they're not supposed to, not in the bathroom. We can't tell a story that like Alec Baldwin took a poop at 3 a.m. on an overnight.
No, that kind of seems on brand, but
yeah, no, it would need to be in the aisle. If it hits the toilet, like we can't just congratulate him.
For this episode on Starstruck, this news comes to me from of all places, Apple Fitness Plus.
I know you're a regular. I mean, I feel bad that we got rid of the YouTube because a lot of people don't see. I mean, Jason usually comes in shirtless, oiled up. He's listening to Apple Fitness Plus quite a bit. I mean, during the crunches, the sit-ups, the pull-ups, the running, the
burpees, a lot of burpees.
You're doing an Ironman right now, right?
Yeah, currently. Yeah. I'm at the bicycling portion. So I have a few minutes before I have to get in the water.
Yeah, no, this is just the quality of my editing.
Yeah. Anyway, this story comes to us from Apple Fitness Plus. I'm also relying on Bastion of journalistic integrity, Fox News website.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's the real new, no spin, the no spin zone.
The no spin zone.
Yeah. And this has to do with actor Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn. Can you give some context to Goldie Hawn for our under 40 audience / your under 40 co-host?
Yeah. So Goldie Hawn, she was actually even a little bit before my time.
Mm-hmm.
She was a dancer and I think comedian on the show Laugh-In. Are you familiar? Have you ever heard of
Laugh-In? Was that it was like a
like hippie?
Was it kind of like Mad TV, like SNL type of thing, or sketch, or
exactly.
Okay,
exactly so. And she was in a few movies like late 70s, early 80s. Actually, she's won an Oscar. I think most recently, she can be seen in the Christmas Chronicles series on Netflix.
Oh, great.
Over the past few years, where her
Christmas and Christmas too. This time it's personal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And Christmas 3, they fucked with the wrong Christmas. But in those series, her longtime partner Kurt Russell plays a rock and roll Santa who fucks, and so she makes appearances as Mrs. Claus.
You know what I realized actually this morning that makes me very sad about Santa?
Huh?
Santa, he's married. I assume Santa and Mrs. Claus fuck like rabbits. I mean, you look at the way they look at each other.
Yeah.
No kids. Santa's shooting blanks.
Yeah. Or I don't know. Maybe they've. I
guess Mrs. Claus is probably too old to give birth at this point too, so that's probably. But he didn't have any kids from before. I've seen the claymation movies. They were married young.
Right.
I've seen the original theatrical release of the claymation movie from the 70s. A lot of people don't know this about this one, but they did fuck for 8 to 9 hours in the wedding night. Raw dog in it. So, you know, like I think that we just don't talk enough about Santa's infertility. Neither here nor there. Go on, tell me more about Goldie Hawn.
I guess I never assumed that Santa was like couldn't father children so much as like they made a conscious choice.
You think Santa uses a condom?
I think that I don't know if he needs to do that because he has like Santa magic, right? But I think
you think he casts a Santa magic spell on his dick every time they fuck to be like, hey, not this time.
Right. I do actually. I think that Santa and Mrs. Claus subscribe to the anti-natalist movement. You know, where like it's morally irresponsible to bring children into the world.
That's why he gives presents to the kids, but not their parents, because it's not the kids' fault for being born, but the parents put themselves on the naughty list.
That is exactly right. Yes. I feel like of all people, Santa probably has like the best understanding of the ethical problems facing like today's youth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's a conscious choice. So anyway,
yeah, we're not talking about Santa's fertility status or views on natalism today.
No,
I mean, we did, but we're not talking about it anymore.
Yeah, we're just speculating.
We're usually very on topic.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, this comes to us from Apple Fitness Plus, the Time to Walk.
Time to Walk.
I don't know, podcast, record, like basically it's about 40 minutes of a celebrity or inspirational person you know, kind of talking to themselves while they're out on a walk, so that when you're walking, you can listen to that. And
so wait, they're walking when they record it?
Presumably. That's sort of the conceit. You know, to be honest, like I have no idea.
Does it sound like shit?
No, it sounds like someone recorded a solo podcast and then someone put in sounds of like crunching leaves and birds chirping and like water.
You're not you wait, so you think that maybe Goldie Hawn's policy is that making me actually fucking walk costs extra?
I mean, I don't know. That you know,
you think you think Tim Cook would tell me that I was going for a walk with Goldie Hawn and Emerald Lagasse, and in reality, they were sitting down.
Yeah, she was laying on the couch smoking Virginia Slims and eating bonbons. No, that's just I have no doubt that Ms. Hawn was actually out walking. She actually seems like a pretty cool person. Said a little bit before my time. Mm-hmm. Seen her in like a couple movies, but nothing.
Was she like a big gay rights activist?
Of like 13-year-old boy. So.
Was she like a big gay rights person before that was popular?
Yes. Yeah. No, so
I know every gay man over 35 I know loves her.
Yeah. No, so yes, she's as far as I know, you know, my understanding of Goldie Hawn is brilliant comedic actress. Said she's won Oscars, Emmys.
Well, what'd she do? Kill a vampire? Why is she on the show?
Well, so during the Time to Walk episode recently here on Apple Fitness Plus, which is just her, you know, it's about 40 minutes of her kind of talking about, you know, stream of consciousness, whatever. During this most recent episode, she admits that she has actually met extraterrestrials.
Holy shit.
That she has not only seen UFOs and extraterrestrials, but they touched her face and she felt very like calm and at peace. And
if I were an
thought
actress,
it was a
I
lot of
would
love.
not let an extraterrestrial touch my face. I'd be like, that's money, baby.
Right. Well, this event occurred again, according to her story, when she was in her 20s, so probably late 70s. Yeah, in Southern California. She was working as a dancer. For some reason, just suddenly felt tired. Asked a fellow dancer if she could take a nap in their car. He said, yeah. And next thing she knew, there were 2 to 3 triangle-headed beings with no ears, big eyes, little slit for a mouth, pointing at her outside of the car, like poking, like they were evaluating her.
So you said triangle heads,
yeah,
big eyes, small ears, no ears. You said
no ears, no ears,
small mouth,
small mouth. Yeah, big eyes. Yeah,
big eyes, small mouth.
So
I don't know how I feel about that.
So roughly, like, kind of to my mind, it sounds sort of like I don't know, sort of stereotypical like gray alien.
Well, the gray has a very elongated round head, and also the grays historically, if it was a gray, it would not be a pleasant encounter, because the grays historically are very, if not outright aggressive, at the very least hostile.
Yeah,
like grays are where you get a lot of the probing and a lot of the really like Benny and Barney Hill were abducted by grays.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah. Otherwise, her account of it sort of meshes with a lot of other accounts of folks encountering extraterrestrials. She felt paralyzed, like she was aware but couldn't move or do anything. Felt like they were like evaluating her, and finally somehow like broke free. She says she felt like breaking through a force field and was able to get up and run, where she went back in the building and said that told her friends that she just had a cosmic encounter, that she had just made contact.
And they said that's great, Goldie, but we're the Rockettes right now, and we've really got to go ahead and do this fucking can. So chop chop.
Right. Yeah. I mean, quite possibly, except that the Rockettes are in New York and this is the Southern California desert.
We're the Tactets, and we got to do the that's the Cactus Rockettes.
Yes. Oh, that could be. Yeah. No, thank you.
The type of A+ comedy you could really only get on Underworld News Tonight.
Right. Yeah. So
that's really interesting, though.
The story doesn't end there.
Oh, it doesn't.
No.
Did she have to give one of them a role later? Like, did they show up and just be like, "I've always wanted to do Shakespeare"?
She doesn't go into quite that level of detail. We can only assume that's what they wanted to do. The ETs are coming to Earth because they want to perform.
They want to do the bard. They've been bitten by the theater bug. So was I once.
Right. Oh, really? What a surprise.
But 'tis not all the world a stage, and are not we the players?
No, she goes on to stay. And this is about 10 minutes of the 40-minute podcast. I actually, not to pat myself on the back for my journalistic integrity. When I saw this, I listened to the podcast.
You told me 3 times, right?
Yes, I was drunk the first time and didn't stick with me. Listened to it again, and if anything, I was more drunk.
Okay, yeah.
And then and listened to it earlier today again.
And that time you were just on the Quaaludes.
Right. And I had been huffing glue, of course.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah. Someone's got to keep Elmer's in business.
Right. Yeah. So she goes on to say, this is something that she told her friends, that there's actually no mention of what her like friends said at the time. Seems like she sort of handled this whole experience with a lot of kind of let it go, didn't dwell on it.
That's the type of people who experience this.
Yeah.
I can't get abducted. I want it too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, she says she claims years later, doesn't say how long, she visited University of Illinois Champaign. Oh wait, that is what. Yeah. So U of I.
All right.
She met an astrophysicist. They were talking about space. She mentioned the encounter, and he very much was like wanted to hear more. Sort of talked to her about it, and during the conversation that Hawn described as being like regression therapy. So she was like remembering details that she otherwise didn't recall. Says that they touched her face. Not only did they like point at her and visit her, that they touched her, and she said it felt like the finger of God. Benevolent.
How'd you know what the finger of God feels like?
It doesn't say. I can only assume. Maybe it's an
when she get fingered by God.
Of
you gotta listen to you gotta go back in the fucking podcast log.
Like Fitness Plus. Yeah, maybe she started with that. But no, she felt it was like very powerful, and it in the context of the podcast I listened to 3 times, it equated it with like joy and wonder, and having an experience that she couldn't explain. But I don't know. Said a lot of what she says does sort of match up with the like current understanding of like extraterrestrial visitation, right? Like being paralyzed.
That's very common. Yeah. A lot of the more documented cases definitely involve that sort of thing.
Like high-pitched noises.
Oh, did she say there were high-pitched noises? I didn't hear.
I'm sorry. Did I?
I don't. You might have mentioned it. No, but that. I mean, that makes sense. That's totally in line with.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a lot of times it's. You hear about fight, flight, or freeze. I think people tend to run or freeze. They tend not. Very few people are going to try to fight it.
Yeah. No. That. Yeah. Well, I think that's at least in the extraterrestrial contact stories I've heard. Yeah, like people are either like frozen or they run away. Like no one's beating the shit out of the grays.
No, nobody is. I mean, well, the interesting thing is though, I think that's why you freeze though, because you could beat the fuck out of a gray. You look at a gray, they're extremely thin, they're wiry, they're top heavy, they have what appears to be very thin skin, like giant eyes, which are super vulnerable. Like if people did not freeze up, we could kill a gray very easily.
No,
that's why you gotta wonder, man, does the government have a fucking body?
Yeah.
I actually don't think the government does, but a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah.
And who's to say the shit that other people make up or the shit that I make up on this podcast?
Right.
Yeah.
No. So, Goldie Hawn, beloved actor, LGBTQ advocate, met.
Maybe that's what maybe the aliens were gay, and that was really the message all along.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if so, she didn't talk about it, but she seems like remarkably chill for having had this experience, right? Like, she's someone who's been in the public eye for 60 years, and only like on a fitness podcast thinks to bring this up. Like she could have been chatting with Johnny Carson about this shit like in 85 or whatever.
Well, I think that part of it is that she would have been ridiculed decades ago. Like there is like you would have been ridiculed for this. Like I think now, especially after the congressional hearings, people can come forward and say like I had a supernatural or a paranormal experience that might be connected to this, both with aliens and with other stuff that people might attribute to it, like a lot of floating orb experiences. Right. In retrospect, an experience, I'm not going to go into it on the podcast. I had an experience as a kid that I thought was with a ghost that after seeing a lot of the floating orb stuff seems to be in line with that. That's neither here nor there though. But the point is it would ruin your life to say that sort of thing publicly in 1992. If yes, Goldie Hawn came forward and said this happened to me, she would be labeled as insane in like 1992.
I feel like you're right. If it was just like you or I, or
she would not have a career, but people wouldn't take her seriously when she talks about like she would not have been able to do like what you're telling me, a lot of the advocacy work she's done and stuff like that, if she was also the lady who talked about how she saw an alien.
Maybe I guess I feel like she's all like, at least through the duration of my life, the mid 70s through now, that she was always enough of a celebrity that I think that this wouldn't necessarily like hurt her reputation, and may in some ways even like enhance it.
But you don't think that she would have been
free-spirited, like
I don't think like I guess what I'm saying is for a private person it would probably ruin your life at that time. Until like this year, let's say. Like for a public figure who's like, let's say just in entertainment, like in politics, like in entertainment, I don't think it would ruin your life. But like I do think there would be a degree of ridicule that she'd be opening herself up to.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but also like any sort of stand that someone who's a celebrity makes, like that they always sort of get ridiculed for it, even if it's like the most benign, like milk toast, like it just comes with the territory. But no, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to think about. But yeah, thought it was a pretty cool story.
That is fascinating. And now you are obligated for the show to listen to every single episode of Walk With Me going forward 3 times.
It's called Time to Walk.
Time to Walk. I'm glad. I love when a podcast. You know what? Don't fucking tell me what to do. I fucking hate that shit. Don't fucking time to walk. Time to fucking sleep with me. I'll fucking be awake. Fuck you.
Right. Yeah. You can't tell me I'm going to bed.
Now, speaking of people in control of their own destinies, the royal family. Love them or hate them, you have to admit they're made of magic cum.
Yeah, clearly.
But as much as it gives them the right to rule over all of England, Scotland, Wales, the United States, Canada, Australia, India, etc., 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 you know what it doesn't give them? Protection from the supernatural, believe it or not. Now that brings us to a story about Will and Kate. And the curse is not just balding at the age of 30, but it is their allegedly haunted summer estate. Now, the estate in question is that of Amner Hall, which is in Norfolk and was given to the couple as a wedding present by Queen Elizabeth II. Rest in peace, you fine broad.
Hey, can you're a married man, as am I, right?
Yeah.
How many estates were you gifted? I must have had 7.
Yeah, I got a few. I got 4 or 5. I thought you were going to hold me to task for the Queen Elizabeth comment with that you're a married man thing. And I was going to say, we all have hall passes. Right.
Well, I'm afraid that ship has sailed.
Indeed it did. I wanted to take her. I could have taken her on one last trip aboard the London Eye.
Just you, like me, are just going to have to content ourselves with jacking off to the crown.
Now let's talk about Abner Hall. It's a historical fact that in 1558 there was a man born at Abner Hall by the name of Henry Walpole. Now, he was a little fancy boy, so he would go on to study at Cambridge and become a lawyer. But that would change when he became aware of the life and death of Catholic activist Edmund Campion. Now, at the time, Catholicism was highly illegal in the United Kingdom because if you were saying that the king or queen was not at the head of the church, at the time it was the queen, it was the first Elizabeth, you were not just saying that, you weren't just saying that you were Catholic and the Pope was at the head of the church, you don't believe in the Church of England. You were, by extension, challenging the divine right of kings as a concept. They did not have, like I mentioned before, the magic cum theory to justify what was going on. Now we're a lot more scientific about these things. But back then, you really needed to be Anglican. So it was no bueno to be Catholic, but he got so inspired by the life of Edmund Campion that he traveled to continental Europe and became a Jesuit priest. In 1594, returns to England, is arrested, tortured for months, and executed in April of 1595. Rest in peace, Mr. Walpole, but one problem. Mr. Walpole has come home. According to paranormal historian Richard Felix, the former priest has made his return to his childhood home. He said he warned Prince William about this, but he responded flippantly with, "No old home would be complete without a ghost, would it?"
You know what? I think he has a point, actually.
Yeah, but you know what? If I had an 8-year-old son, would not want the ghost of a priest.
No, yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And the thing is, this is not, maybe part of the reason why I still flippant about it, though, is this is not the only haunted house in the possession of the royal family, because believe it or not, they own a lot of houses. So
wait, what?
Yeah, they're not like, I actually thought that King Charles like worked at a call center during his spare time, but no, he actually doesn't have a job. He like they mostly just own a country.
I guess I always assumed it was sort of like I don't know, like a joke or a prank that maybe I didn't understand because of the different senses of humor.
Like
us across the pond in the U.S.
Like they just kind of have a guy. They've just kind of kept this going, and in reality, it's just a guy who goes down to the pub and is like, "Hey, we fooled those Yanks again."
Right.
That's a good point.
Do anything, right? Like they don't. I mean, the men have to join the military, like.
Yeah, but like, all right, maybe we have a British listener. Still, maybe after some of these jokes, not as much. Can you let us know? I feel like they aren't actually like doing the danger. Like, I feel like they're in the photography part, like the photographed part of the military. And I'm not going to say that there's nothing to it, but like,
I
don't think that Prince Harry was ever going to get shot in Iraq.
Right. Yeah, like he was part of I don't know, some like sort of logistics command, say, or I don't know, played a trombone for the military band or some shit. But yeah, I don't know. They just like go to parades and
they just they mostly go to parades and own a bunch of houses. One of which is the one that the king's grandma grew up in, Glamis Castle, which is the most haunted in Scotland, apparently. Was even used by Shakespeare as an inspiration for Macbeth. So one ghost is a woman without a tongue who apparently wanders the house pointing at her bleeding mouth. Another is the ghost of Alexander Lindsay, the 4th Earl of Crawford, who can be heard screaming throughout the castle. I do not know what that guy did.
No, that doesn't sound good, though.
Yeah. And Thomas Bowes Lyon is a royal shunned in his life for his deformed appearance. And he wasn't just deformed in like the sense of looking like a normal British guy. He actually looked kind of like, he actually had like a deformity. And he apparently can be seen walking the halls. There's also a ghost of a butler that hanged himself. Imagine fucking killing yourself and having to spend all of eternity at your workplace that you fucking hate every goddamn day. Yeah, that has to suck.
Really counterproductive.
Yeah, like that's why he should have. I mean, I guess he lived there, so what was he gonna do? I'm not gonna say. Don't don't kill yourself. If you're gonna kill yourself, don't do it in a place that you don't want to be for all of eternity. Don't do it in the place that you hate the most.
Right.
You're also probably going to be less likely to do it if you leave the place that you hate the most.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, if you can help it.
Yeah. Also, if we have any Butler listeners, let us know what you do. I've kind of wondered about that. I assume it's a sexual thing. Now, of course, Windsor Castle itself is home to a number of ghosts, including King Henry VIII and King George III. One story says that Anne Boleyn, one of the wives who was beheaded by King Henry, can be seen running throughout the castle, screaming and clutching her head. So, you know, not great.
No. And these people live here? Like they have to deal with this? Or
I think they bounce around, so you probably meet the different ghosts. I imagine I imagine you don't see them you probably get used to it. Or you don't see them that much.
I guess what I'm wondering is, for you personally, how many times would you be willing to sleep somewhere where you were woken up by a screaming ghost clutching her head?
I think it stops waking. All right, I think it stops waking you up, and here's why. Have you ever like lived somewhere where the gunshots happen? Like the gunshots are just happening, right? Like, you know, at a certain, like the first couple times it's like really scary, and then like, you know, eventually you're just like, yeah, like there's gunshots about once or twice a week, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume with ghosts as well, you know, I mean, if Anne Boleyn is just running around doing the same shit, clutching her head, you know, what, like, I'm sorry that, you know, you married into the royal family in like the fucking 1500s when this is what happened. You should have married into them in the 1990s when they just staged a car crash.
Wow.
Allegedly. Hampton Court Palace is another one, also haunted by many of Henry VIII's former wives, including Catherine Howard, who was also beheaded for adultery. She can be heard screaming for mercy from Henry, while Jane Seymour, another former, don't fucking quiz me on this shit. She walks her along the court's silver stick gallery. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And then there's King Charles's wife. Queen Camilla, maybe Queen Consort, who fucking knows? She's terrified of the 18th century Scottish estate known as Dumfries House. Dumfries House, but I pronounced it properly. Out of respect for our future Scottish listeners. She said that when she restored the property before its 2008 grand reopening to the public, she was frozen at the steps by what she says was definitely the presence of a ghost. She says that she thought she did not want to ever come back to the palace, and it is said that Her Majesty refuses to set foot in Dumfries House to this day.
Oh, man.
And then obviously there are a ton of ghosts of the Tower of London where a bunch of people were beheaded, including the ghosts of the two young princes murdered by their uncle, King Richard III. Anne Boleyn apparently also shows up there, so she's a real Eduardo, just hopping around.
Yeah.
I'm going to say if she did get around that much, maybe the adultery thing is true. Anyway, a bunch of other ghosts on British properties that you can read about in the always 100% and totally reliable New York Post. Moral of the story, I guess, don't be a royal. And if you are, learn how to make friends with ghosts.
Truer words, I think, were never spoken.
It's got to be hard because your parents are all cousins, so you probably do look like the guy that killed them half the time.
Yeah. Well, it's also, it's probably hard because, like, they always stay in these places that have been in existence for, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, they considered a Marriott?
Right. Like, are attached to, you know, a lot of tragedy, and, you know, they don't want to go, like, I don't know, stay at the Luxor in Vegas, or
they should stay at a house from the 70s.
Go somewhere where, maybe not quite so many people died.
They go into a house, get that wood paneling on the walls, they know it's safe.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode, this week's segment, Starstruck. And to close out the episode, we're actually going to stay in the UK.
Across the pond.
Yeah, across the pond. A spot of tea, governor. Uh, this story, which comes to us from no less than the New York Times.
Oh wow, stealing our stuff again. Well, I guess we're
Yeah.
stealing their stuff now, but still.
Well, um, this event is takes place in the English village of Stiffkey,
Of
which
Stiffkey?
Stiffkey.
Oh man,
Yeah, it's a pretty good name.
I remember it was always rough after a bumpy car ride to school.
Yeah, yeah, right. And then you have to sit there and hope like you don't get called up to the write something on the chalkboard with your Stiffkey.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, this is in the county of Norfolk. Small beloved footbridge, twice been mantled by the local, twice dismantled by the local government, has been rebuilt, both times by local ferries, according to the residents of Stiffkey. The bridge, this is in, again, this is what, northeast of Cambridge. It's like salt marshes.
Okay.
So it's a pretty sort of barren, some like low sort of
Yeah, it's like
scrub
swamp.
stuff.
Yeah, it's like thick,
Yeah,
gross swamp. Yeah.
kind of like islandy. Yeah. Um the yeah the the bridge, excuse me, had been there for 50 years, and the local government, the National Trust, because it's like protected land
Yeah.
in the so I guess their equivalent of like Parks Department of or Bureau of Land Management, just abruptly tore it down, with no warning, no communication to the village. And the bridge was gone. A couple days later, folks woke up to find that a bridge had reappeared. And by bridge, I'm using bridge in the most generous term, most generous way possible. We'll post some pictures, but it is essentially a series of planks, just wooden planks and a like natural wood handrail that replaced what was otherwise looked like a pretty like sturdy.
I think maybe if
built.
ferries weren't rebuilding it, yeah, that's the thing. Like they can't build something super sturdy. They're pretty small.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't imagine they have construction equipment. That would be cute though. A little ferry and a little bulldozer.
Right. Yeah, we'll get to the ferries and what they may look like here in a second. But yeah, so this new bridge, the ferry bridge, was then torn down again, this time cited as being an unsafe structure. So the National Trust took it down again. And
these libertarian ferries.
Yeah, another bridge showed up.
Look at those little fluttering wings, those little glowing eyes, those big ears, that's the shiny head. Ha!
Yeah.
Gotta bring back the gold standard.
Right.
Ron Paul?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and they were always talking about the non-aggression principle, and no. Yeah, so the second ferry bridge stands to this day. Again, this is a recent article. So it seems that the ferries are winning out over the government, which you always like to hear, right? You like to hear,
I think the whole thing tracks.
Yeah.
I like to hear that children are walking across something that I would never be okay with, but then you tell me ferries built it. So I guess it's great. It's good.
Right. No, and the article doesn't necessarily talk about this. What do you know? You've made allusions to ferry, when I was talking about this, what you think of ferries is like what, wings and
Little
little
butterfly
wings.
wings, little pointy hats.
Yeah.
They flutter around in worlds of whimsies. They smell like fresh baked cookies. They have a thing for teeth. That's weird. That creeps me out. I don't like to think about that.
Mhm.
But they smell like cookies. They float around. They have little voices. They, kids go into the woods and they sometimes say, "Hey, hey, there's a 1970s Playboy buried over there." Things like that to help them on their journeys of self-discovery.
Right. Oddly specific, but okay. Um, yeah. So that sort of conception of fairies, you're not wrong, but
That's your way of saying I'm right.
that's my way of saying you're wrong.
Fuck.
um, no, in Western Europe, fairies have like a long like folklore history,
Oh, really?
and they're not like all the little like Tinkerbell,
Mhm.
looking things that you described. Like some are sort of evil and monstrous, and um, uh, they have to be like placated by leaving out beer or coins or sacrificing your virgin daughter. Um,
I think those three things, one of those things is very different than the other two.
mhm,
I could give up a beer or a few coins,
yeah,
sacrificing my virgin daughter. Number one, none of my kids are going to be a fucking loser that's going to apply.
yeah.
Like, you call my daughter a nerd?
Well, I don't know. Maybe maybe
Everybody's a
your
fucking band
hypothetical
geek.
your hypothetical future daughter just really has a strong sense of herself and her own worth, and for whatever reason has made that choice.
I don't know, man.
I
All my
mean,
kids are. I can't sacrifice my virgin daughter to you, evil fairy. This is a cool house.
yeah. um but yeah, no, it's pretty cool story. Said the
You
you
think it's
know
evil
the
fairies that are building unsafe bridges?
from the photo of this bridge, which again we'll share, I honestly couldn't tell you. This it does sort of smack of like a trap, but it also seems like something that maybe a group of benign beings that don't have a lot of access to like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, uh, something they might build.
Can you sue a fairy in the UK? I know their laws are different than ours.
That's an excellent question. And yeah, the article from the failing New York Times doesn't go into that.
Yeah. Well,
What the what UK fairies legal status is vis-a-vis lawsuits. But yeah,
if
no, someone here's a quote from Duncan Baker, who he's a member of parliament for that county. It's a David.
we're talking about the fucking fairy bridges in Parliament.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So I know we don't talk about like politics here. Don't they have like a major cost of living crisis where people can't afford heat and winter's coming and a bunch of old people are going to die?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Let's talk about the ferry bridge in Parliament.
Well, I don't know if you maybe I misspoke. Maybe he didn't bring it up in Parliament, but
Okay.
he is a member of Parliament.
Okay.
And his take
Allowed
on
to have
it
hobbies.
is I quote, "It's a David versus Goliath situation. An enormous organization has effectively removed a bridge, totally unprepared for the feelings of the villagers who have been so upset by this."
I was going to look up if he was a Tory, but I don't think I need to anymore. I think I figured that out. Uh,
are Tories no?
they're the
Are they
conservatives.
pro-fairy or
They're the conservative. Well, they would be pro. You can't remove this fucking clearly unsafe bridge because it's an infringement on our rights. Even
right,
when the bridge is like a stick that was put up by a fairy.
right, right? No, I
Well,
understand.
you know, if you are to any of our to any ferry construction workers out there,
Hmm.
my advice: build build wider bridges, build sturdier bridges.
Hmm.
You know, avoid the back and forth. You're just gonna have to rebuild it if you half-ass it.
Yeah, yeah. Good advice. I was actually this article had me wondering what do you reckon it would take to get some of those ferries over here to fix up our bridges?
That
We
is
have
a
some
good
really
question.
shitty bridges.
I think that they'd probably be a lot better at patchwork too than they would be. We're not asking them to build a whole bridge; we're asking them to patch them up.
Right, right.
I think here's what I think the problem is. I think that to a ferry, something like a bridge on the interstate or something is like deeply upsetting.
Hmm.
Like I think
Right,
that ferries don't want to help us.
right. But as opposed to like a little like footbridge
Yeah,
over a creek is,
that's cute.
yeah,
Yeah,
something right.
they only want a bridge that could lead to a little cottage where with a little witch in it.
Right. That they're not so much interested in infrastructure.
They don't care about the real fucking hardworking Americans trying to deliver their fucking haul of Sleepy's mattresses from
Hmm.
Ohio to Nevada. Fuck these elitist ferry pricks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, yeah. Well done. Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
coming. We're coming out as anti-ferry from the Helen Keller. Don't take that out of context. Don't please don't take this out of context.
Yes, because the context is so much better.
Well,
So the Helen Keller of podcasting has come out against fairies. Do I have that right?
you can pull me to it legally. And thanks everybody so much for listening. I'm Andrew Michaels, the Helen Keller of podcasting, here with Jason Strong. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Underworld News Tonight. If you like this show, definitely follow us. We are on Spotify, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Amazon, maybe iTunes by the time this is up. We don't know. There have been some technical issues, but we do appreciate you listening. And make sure to let us know what you think. If you've been enjoying the show, you can send us any stories or thoughts at underworldnewstonight@gmail.com. We appreciate you all very, very much.
Yeah, if you have any story ideas, believe me, we would be interested. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.